Polipede Works here, coming at you once again with One Piece chapter 1073, Miss Backing Stussy. Now, like I said in chapter 1072, we're just going to be going over the highlights of things that I personally found interesting in this chapter. We will not be going over page for page, line for line, but we are going to cover the cover story because this cover story is superbly interesting. Vegapunk has received a Ebel Peace Prize for developing cannons that shoot flowers. Now, in the real world, the Nobel Peace Prize was named after a guy called Alfred Nobel. So I'm wondering if this Ebel person is a real person in the One Piece world. Is he an actual scientific figure that predates Vegapunk? We'll have to see, but that's very interesting. And now we see that Vegapunk's tongue has grown out of his mouth, which is a very interesting development because I wonder why exactly that is and what happened to him for that to actually occur. And we see a Den Mushi on what appears to be a tripod. Not sure if this is a camera or some sort of video camcorder, but yeah, that's the first time something like this has appeared, which is very interesting. We also see Caesar, Queen, and Judge in the back freaking out. Queen has now received his overalls. We kind of see that there as they're under his lab coat. Caesar is basically where we saw him last. And then Judge is the same. He hasn't gotten his helmet yet. So interesting stuff. I think here, just based on Vegapunk's smugness, it's kind of telling that he's above the other three, because from him just being able to do this, it kind of shows that his scientific genius is a step above his constituents and that he can do whatever he desires, which is interesting because he is a humanitarian. Moving forward, what's very interesting about Stussy here, the Stussy that we know of with the bat wings, is that she has a new paper arts technique, which is an after image technique that she uses to dodge Lucy. I don't know how she's doing this. It seems like it might be a combination of high-speed movement and the sort of paper arts thing that allows you to shift your body in various ways. That's in itself very interesting because this is the first time we're seeing anything like this. And she's shown to have lipstick laced with karoseki or cease prism stone. What's interesting about that is it's making me think, how does this work to a point where it doesn't weaken her? Then again, with stronger devil fruit users such as Kid or Luffy, they have shown to be able to actually move around when affected with karoseki. So I don't think this in a lipstick form is too outlandish. But yeah, she does lay out Lucy along with Kaku. And poor Lucy. Lucy cannot catch a break. He gets styled on by the cartoon character, and now he gets styled on by a sexy vampire lady. Terrible form, Lucy, but we'll see how you do next time. Terrible, though. Very terrible. And then we find out that Stussy has been working with Vegapunk the whole time, and she is potentially, like, I guess, a triple agent because she was also posing, I guess, as a underworld broker, if you remember the whole wedding back in Whole Cake. So that's incredibly interesting. I mean, that's really, really cool. Egghead has been a joy, I have to tell you, because that alone makes her one of the more interesting characters in the story. Another thing to point out is that, okay, so first of all, the Seraphim have the same sort of pinpoint reticle technology as the rest of the pacifistas because S-Hawk zeroes in on Lilith, but is then blocked by Zoro. What's interesting about this is that Zoro sees the humanity in the Seraphim, and Seraphim Mihawk or S-Hawk manages to push Zoro back. Okay, let me say that again. S-Hawk pushes Zoro back. S-Hawk does not have hockey. This is purely super strength, okay? This is terrifying, and I think I'm going to do a separate video on this alone because this is setting the stage for S-Hawk to be something more than just a government weapon. At least that's what I think. Because to push a post-King fight Zoro back in their first clash is very impressive. Very impressive indeed. And then we find out that Sanji saves Edison, so that's kind of cool. I do like that. Now on Sphinx Island, and this is what I was alluding to back in chapter 1072, what's interesting about this is that the Marines came to Sphinx Island because they're cowards, and they were basically just attacking the townspeople to get Whitebeard's treasure. What's interesting about one of the Marines, I think his name is Rattle. He looks like a mouse, which, okay, obviously. He reminds me of that one guy all the way back in Arlong Park who too looked like a mouse and had like mouse ears on his hat. So I wonder, are these guys relatives? Because that's something that's very interesting, and I didn't think we'd see another rat Marine, which is also funny that he's a dirty Marine and he's styled after a rat. That's very funny. He also points guns at children, so that's no good. And then he gets wiped out by Edward Weevil. Now, based on Edward's dedication to Sphinx Island and what's said a little later, I'm going to say in this era of people thinking everyone's a clone and there's a potential of characters that we know being clones of characters that we met in the past, I think Weevil's not a clone. I think he's the one character that everyone who thinks is a clone really isn't. I remember back in the day too, before this clone business started, people thought Weevil was a zombie. I don't think that either. I think Weevil is the legitimate child of one Edward Newgate, Whitebeard. I think that's the case. And Miss Bucking actually tells Marco, who's at Sphinx Island after Weevil has defended Sphinx Island, that if she is being doubted that by Marco that Weevil is indeed the son of Whitebeard, Marco can go ask Vegapunk. We are also made aware that Miss Bucking is the former member of the Rocks Pirates. She's a self-proclaimed scientist, and she's a Mads freeloader. So the original Miss Bucking was the lady on the first cover story about when we see all the Mads members as young people. She's the woman in the back. It wasn't the Stussy that we know. It's the Stussy that's called Miss Bucking now. And we also find out that Weevil was captured by Green Bull, though I think it's very funny that a plant captured a guy named after a bug. That's kind of funny. But also, the fact that Green Bull accomplished something is miraculous because he had a terrible first showing. Terrible. The last thing I want to make note of is something that's kind of crazy, kind of ridiculous. We see Kizaru again. As you know, he was pulling into Egghead the last time we saw him. Okay. If you want to know, the 5 Elder Stars first appeared in chapter 233 and episode 151. Chapter 233 came out on June 10th, 2002. Therefore, it's been what? 21-ish, 22-ish years since we've seen these characters, and only now we are getting a name drop for one of them. We are being introduced to the highest authority in the world, one of the 5 Elder Stars, Saint J. Garcia Saturn. What's interesting about this introduction in itself is that look who is with him. Kizaru is with him, and he asks him if he ever met Vegapunk, and Saturn says once a long time ago, but his developments now are a little unfortunate. This makes me think, based on some videos I've made, which I'm going to link in this video, Kizaru is something else. I don't think Kizaru is in the same pay grade as Aki Inu, or where Kuzan was, or Green Bull, or Fujitora. I think Kizaru is something else. Admirals are something special in One Piece, don't get me wrong. But it's just really weird that he and he alone, by himself, is trusted to escort a 5 Elder Star. Also, what's very interesting to me is that based on him being escorted, I'm kinda of the belief that the 5 Elder Stars are, as they are presented on the 10, the highest authority in the world. I think they are authority figures, and they potentially aren't Delphi users. We'll have to see about that, because they very well could be, but just based on how they've been portrayed so far, it would be a weird tonal shift if they were also Delphi users or hockey users. It makes sense for them to just be figureheads that are held in very high esteem as opposed to combatants. However, Kizaru being here just kind of sets him apart for me from the rest of the Marines, because it's just so strange that he alone is given the privilege of escorting someone this important. It is quite interesting too that the food that is prepared for Saturn is tested for poison. So that too makes me think that he isn't a devil fruit user and he is a regular human, because if the food is being tested for poison, that means he most likely has a very human constitution and it can't be offset by hockey or just natural endurance. That has to be it, because otherwise he really wouldn't care. And especially seeing as how quickly superhumans seem to develop immunities and or antibodies to diseases and poisons. Like, for example, say Luffy, after his fight with Magellan, he could deal with most of Caesar Clown stuff easily. Or like how Law was able to combat the malaria disease that Doc Q inflicted on him simply by using hockey. Even Doc Q says that his diseases have a sort of finite limit to how effective they are, because the antibodies within the body will attack said disease and making his abilities eventually inert to that particular person. So just from this line alone, it makes me think that it's a higher possibility that all the 5 Elder Stars are just regular humans. But we'll have to see how that moves forward in the future. Now, based on our Stussy, the clone Stussy, based on the abilities that she has now, and I forgot to mention she also has sharp teeth, so there is a high potential that she is a regular Bat-Zoan, maybe a vampire Bat-Zoan, and she has the weird pig nose, which is why she chooses only to stay in this sort of succubus-like state, because she finds her other Zoan states hideous. Kind of like how Black Maria did. I think Miss Bucking probably has the same type of ability, and potentially she used the same lipstick to subdue Whitebeard, and then she took his precious seed from him and impregnated herself to create Edward Weevil. That's what I truly think that situation is about, but I'm sure we'll get a flashback or something outlining the nature of that. I am happy that Weevil is an actual character and he's not just like a weird one-off joke, and I'm glad he's freakishly strong. I do wonder what the Green Bull situation is. Did he get captured, or did he go willingly so to protect his father's sort of legacy? But we'll have to see how that develops. And with that, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. More videos coming soon because we are on break. So boo to that, but you know, that's how it is sometimes. Catch you next time. If you like stuff like this, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Polipede Works. And if you like what you see, I would appreciate your subscription. Thank you so much. See you next time.